I affirmed resolve that we should abolish advisory with the study hall. Students find study hall not only to be a waste of time, but to be completely ineffective and not contribute to their academic success and careers throughout school. Study hall is a 40-minute period that has many activities that aren't beneficial to what we actually do in school. Student stress levels would be significantly decreased if they were given time to be able to further their academic careers through a study hall with participation of legislators. An allotted time period would be given so that legislators of each study hall could come in and give announcements from student government meetings, as happened in advisory. However, unlike advisory, students would be given the rest of the time to work collaboratively or independently on assignments they saw fit in order to help make their experience in school a less stressful and more productive one. This would be beneficial not only for students, their stress level, but also for teachers. This would allow teachers a period as well to be able to work and catch up on anything that they had to do. As a result, I believe that a study hall would not only be more beneficial for our school community, but be more beneficial for everyone involved. We took a survey of about 40 people, asking them their thoughts on advisory. Everybody agreed that a study hall period would be better. While some people did agree that the idea of advisory or intention behind it was intelligent, the way that it was carried out was seen as not effective and a waste of time. The activities were seen as not beneficial and to seem pointless. In order to make students feel like they have more of a voice and in what's happening in their academic careers, I believe a study hall should be implemented. For these reasons, I affirm. All right, you can go.
We negate the resolve. North Broward should replace advisory with a study hall period. Our first response to their contention about there being a survey conducted is that the survey does not demonstrate a true audience. It is only relative to our school members, but there are various other schools that have advisory periods and they also matter, which is why they need to be taken into account in this debate, especially because there is no data to show that they don't view advisory in a positive light. In the contrary, there are many students who enjoy their time in advisory and who actually learn and who get to converse about ideas that matter in their school, especially with their advisory teachers and fellow classmates. Now, onto their response, where they tell you that advisory would exacerbate stress levels, but we tell you that stress levels are not relative to advisory because that's not taking time away from them. Stress can root from other problems like procrastination, a plethora of extracurricular activities that take up their time and that accurately represent their stress because it's too much for students and they can't take it, which is why their contention does not fall, and it is non-unique to both worlds because in the neg we tell you that stress is existing in both worlds and they're not showing how they're solving for it, so it's non-unique. Now we're outweighing on scope because we are impacting the most amount of students. They only care about NB students, but we care about all students in the nation. We're impacting the entire US student population, and that is why we outweigh on scope. And for sure, that is why you need to firmly negate this resolution. Thank you. Wow!
Are you ready for class?
Yes.
All right. So because I spoke first, can I have first question?
Sure.
Okay. So you say that you care about all students, but since this is something that would be passed in North Broward, shouldn't we prioritize how North Broward students feel about this?
But this IB course also urges that we look through a national perspective and that we come to learn from other programs at other schools so that we can implement it in North Broward. Sure, the focus is in North Broward, we agree, but we would argue that it matters everywhere, not just in North Broward. Can I have a question?
Of course.
Okay. So you tell us that stress levels are linked back to advisory. Is that necessarily true?
It is true because with advisory, it's another time period where you're focusing time on different activities like reflection of your year or goal setting, which doesn't actually contribute to what you're doing in classes.
Well, wouldn't you say that there are other causes to stress?
Just because there are other causes to stress doesn't mean we can't eliminate one and help students deal with stress better. That should be the goal of school, to help students deal with stress, not to eliminate all causes of stress.
You have a question.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask a counter question to my first question. You talked about how like we should look at all schools that have advisory and stuff like that, but you come from public school, and in public school they don't have advisory, they do have a study hall. And wouldn't you say that that's relatively well implemented and that's pretty successful, considering there's a lot of public schools, and if they're
Okay,
all
so if you're looking to president with a public school, you're not doing it so accurately, because private schools and public schools are various different images
well,
of
they're
what an
schools down to their basic core, they have students with stress.
But you just said that your focus is on NB, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And because your focus is on NB, I think we should accurately represent NB as a private institution. And as such, we should be looking to other private institutions to look to president, not public schools. Sure, public schools benefit from study halls, but that doesn't mean necessarily private schools will, because they're not the same. You can't equivalent that. That is time. Thank you.
So let's sum up what happened in this debate. They're basically telling you that we should look to other private institutions, that we should look to a national scope of schools in order to evaluate the problem of whether or not advisory at North Broward should be turned into a study hall. We would argue that if you're looking at North Broward as a school, it should be evaluated as to how North Broward students see this issue, perceive it, and what they think would be best for their academic careers moving on. While we definitely agree that other private institutions and their experiences should be taken into consideration, we believe that what should come first and foremost is the experiences of North Broward students and how they feel that they would do better in an academic setting. Especially considering we are in a college prep school, students need to learn to take responsibility and action for their learning. Part of this is being able to advocate when they feel their time isn't being put to best use, such as being put in terms of advisory. They also talk about how stress levels aren't correlated with advisory. We would agree. However, it's unrealistic to try to eliminate all stress associated with school. Stress can come from multiple sources during school that even have to do with things that you're doing outside of it. However, we think that any step that the school takes to help reduce the amount of stress that students experience should be taken as something positive and should be taken into consideration. As a result, we still firmly affirm the resolution that we should turn study hall, a period that is seen as unproductive and a waste of students' time, that we should take advisory and turn it into study hall so that students' time can be used more productively and effectively in order to address what they see fit. As we are a college prep school, let's let students start taking responsibility for their learning in ways they see fit.
Time starts now. So they tell you that there are a plethora of private institutions in the nation who we shouldn't look to for president, but that is certainly not the fact. In Cross, my opponent brings up public schools, but that isn't relevant because NB is not a private institution and shouldn't be compared to a public one when we're talking about NB specific. Of course, we agree that NB students and their opinions are valuable, but we have to look to private institutions for president. It's exactly why this is important is because she doesn't show you how the replacement of advisory will fit well with administration or even students. That's why we have to look to president and to other private institutions who've already taken this project into progress and who have already taken into account like all the results from acting in such a manner. So like we have to look to president and she doesn't offer that. She also doesn't warrant her response in why stress levels would be reduced by advisory. She doesn't tell you how this is going to happen. She just tells you it's going to happen. So judge, I urge you not to take that into account in the debate because she's not warranting it. And if she's not warranting it, then it doesn't stand. So she barely put any ink on my flow. And that's why it should be stripped from your flow as well. Now, onto time allocation. Sure, there's going to be less time spent on legislation, and that's fine. But in the reality, she doesn't prove how this time allocation will be spent for students. She tells you that students will take advantage of this free time to study, but in reality, a lot of students will take advantage of this and will spend their time on unproductive activities like Netflix or watching TikToks. And that is not what a school environment wants to preserve or to maintain or to support, because that is not what NB is about. NB is about prepping students for college, and watching TikTok, to be honestly sincere with you all, will not prep you for college. And for that reason, we urgently ask for a negative ballot. Thank you.
Good round.
Good round.